Hey guys, Buckeye Bar Guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, that way anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody. Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Today's date is Thursday, November 18th, 2021, and we are getting ready to face off against Michigan State here. The Buckeyes are on Saturday, noon game, senior day. It's been a while since we've had one of these big extravaganza senior days at the stadium with all the pomp and circumstances of all that stuff. So it's nice to get some of that stuff.
Well, they didn't get any sort of senior day last year, though, really, because they would have went to East Lansing was the last game, right?
Yeah, that's true. So senior day. So
it would have just been parents there anyways. But
yeah, so that'll be all fun and good. So that's what we'll discuss tonight. Just our thoughts about the game. Go over some of the Big Ten predictions for this week, and then finish up on our predictions for Michigan State. So I think my kind of general thoughts going into this week is just kind of let's just keep staying on target with this, and don't overthink it. Michigan State throws a couple different things at you. You're going to be playing most likely the best running back that they've played all year. If I'm trying to think back to the games, none of them have had a running back as good as him.
Mo Ibrahim.
True.
That would have been about it.
But that's it. And, the Buckeye struggled a little bit against him.
Sure. Who hasn't the last 2 years?
And, it kind of makes you think if he doesn't get hurt, what does that fourth quarter look like? Because, he was starting to really take off some big chunks in that third quarter. And so, just what are your general thoughts? Seems like Michigan State's pass defense is god awful. Their run defense is better. They're 20th. So, they'll throw some things at you, but we've now played how many pretty solid run defenses in a row?
Yeah.
I think that, minus Purdue, I don't think they were necessarily the best, but we had a couple back-to-back weeks there, which that threw us some stuff at us, and just I think we'll be in pretty good position with that.
I feel like, from what I know and what I've read about Michigan State, it kind of feels like their pass defense in a way is kind of like Ohio State's pass defense. Yeah, they get gouged for yards. I think they give up the big play here and there. I don't think they're actually as horrible as it all looks statistically and on paper. And I think they have a little bit of issues like Ohio State does, giving up a ton of yards when that's kind of what they're making you do against them. And then of course, Ohio State has issues in the middle of the field. And I don't even know if Michigan State's actually as bad as what Ohio State is for big plays. I haven't watched a ton of Michigan State this year.
I've watched a few games.
I know you watched a lot of the Michigan game.
I watched most of the Michigan game.
So, Michigan, Cade McNamara looked like a pretty competent quarterback against them, and he is not very good.
No.
So, maybe that says all you need to know right there about their pass defense.
Yeah.
Their run defense is good, and they get a ton of pressure. Actually, I read it, and I don't know if it was that trustworthy of a source, but pressures this year in the country, they were first, I think, for QB pressures. And then I believe Ohio State's third for QB pressures. And those are two bad pass defenses, which that isn't really something that you see correlate with each other that often, because you would, the thought is if you're getting pressure on the quarterback, he doesn't have time to make an accurate throw.
The crazy thing, and now I've not watched a lot of Michigan State to see where their pressures are coming and where their pressures aren't. I can honestly say from Ohio State, the games that they're getting the least amount of pressure has been some of their worst defensively. When you kind of look earlier in the season, some of those big yard games that we gave up against even Tulsa, we weren't getting a ton of pressure. It wasn't really the Akron game. And then that stretch, a lot of the pass defenses kind of started falling off a little bit, really until Purdue then kind of lit us up a little bit. But as we talked about last week, that's a lot of different situation. The game was well in hand when a lot of those pass yards, the final 2 touchdowns, all that stuff came when, they were never going to come back in the game.
Right. And they kind of like, it got to a point where, they were just dropping 8 and kind of like just letting Purdue, here, take this, here, have these yards for free. Cause we know you're not going to be able, sustain a game plan to beat us doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of what you're saying is true. Like the pass defense kind of just, they're like, all right, well, we're not going to lose. So we'll play it safe, which I hate when defenses play it safe, but whatever, different conversation for a different day.
I think they were playing it safe in a lot of spots, but I also think that they were trying to do a lot of stuff. Also, I think they were kind of using it in the second half as okay, we're up big. Let's kind of maybe try a couple things. I mean,
they didn't blitz,
but I think they were trying a couple things with their secondary.
Yeah.
And because they didn't take a lot of guys out. They were pretty much kept all their starters in and their normal rotation players in. And, so, I mean, usually when you see that, when you're up that big and you give up kind of garbage points, a lot of times it is against third teamers and stuff like that. They kept a lot of their main guys in, and I think they were just trying a lot of different things with the different coverages and stuff, and different rotations of the coverages. See maybe where they were at with some of that stuff, because you never know when you might need to throw some things out there coming down the stretch here.
Back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think Michigan State, I was looking into them again, kind of just reading more than what I've actually seen with my eyes. I mean, it felt like, and they passed pretty well against Michigan. I remember that. I mean, Kenneth Walker ran very well against Michigan. He's a good running back. They got a good offense.
They do.
They're balanced too. Of course, Kenneth Walker, is the star of that offense right now, but they're not the 3 best receivers in the conference that someone had called them earlier in the year, but they got 3 good receivers.
Yeah.
But the thing about them, and I'm interested to see how all this plays out. And again, I don't know a ton about them. I feel like, though, a lot of their strikes, they've used that they've had better athletes on the outside as their receivers. And I think they're kind of built on big plays. And that kind of feeds into like what Ohio State, as long as it's not right down the middle of the field, which has happened to Ohio State plenty of times. But I feel like Ohio State over the years, that's kind of like the type of offense that they're okay against.
Yeah.
Someone that's like, we got this running back that could break off an 80-yarder on you. We got these receivers that they're going to run, 3 verts, and we're just going to throw it over the top. Like, this is kind of like the sort of offense that Ohio State's done okay against over the years. And I think they can again.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the thing that really, where this type of offense kind of really benefits Ohio State, especially this year and in previous years, is that they're going to get opportunities at the quarterback, because, this is a more of a, he's going to be more back there a little longer than Purdue necessarily was. And I mean, their goal is to kind of get big streaks down the field. And I think that's kind of where they're going to be going. And so I'm not really, I think I said this last week. I think a lot of the teams coming up are going to really benefit Ohio State's defense. So was never as worried as maybe some of the Ohio State fans about what we saw last week, because I just think it's a different,
right.
They're different offenses altogether. I'm a little concerned with Walker. I mean, I won't lie. And I know we have done really well against the run for the most of the year. It's just, I kind of go back to those first 2 games where, Ibrahim was gashing us, and Oregon, I mean, they were killing us at different points in the running game.
You gotta look at it like a completely different scheme that wasn't working to stop the run at all. Also,
it's just, this is now. Does that scheme, was this the new schemes, or are they working against just teams that was it working, or was it just that we were playing worse running games than we've played in a while?
I mean, I don't remember who said it, but one of the interviews yesterday, they said everyone's bought into, stopping the run on their defense.
And that's definitely a big sign, and they need to definitely make sure that is, because that's Ohio State's identity. I hate getting gashed in the passing game as much as anybody, but I hate when teams every now and then can run on them, because it's like, like I remember back in like, '07 when Mendenhall and Juice Williams are just killing them, down the field the whole game. And I'm just like, this is not Ohio State defensive football.
They weren't even a bad defense that year.
Yeah. This is they always do well against the run the most part.
Right.
And so I just don't want to see something like that. And I think they know that they know of him. This is going to be no surprise going into this. Michigan State's not going to do anything that surprises them. It'll be interesting to see how they do though, with them now being focused against him, because this is now their first running back that they've really focused on in a while. And can Michigan State do some stuff off of maybe Ohio State being overly aggressive in some spots? So it'll be interesting to see where maybe some play action passes and maybe a couple RPOs and stuff. I don't know how much of the RPO they run, but they might throw a couple out there because, they know Ohio State's been vulnerable against stuff like that in the past.
Well, I will say, just looking at, some of the comparable teams that we've played. So he went off against Rutgers. Nebraska, he did not do very well. He had 19 for 61. So I think even Trey Henderson had a better day against Nebraska than what he did. Let's look at Indiana. 23 for 84. So that's not good. So, against some of the stronger fronts that he's played, they've done all right against him.
They've done okay against him. So
now,
that's a good sign.
Of course, he went off against Michigan, but we both have said we've questioned how real the deal Michigan actually is.
The thing about Michigan is, I mean, I've seen it so many times over the last, decade, where, going all the way back to the game of the century, the 06 game where that Michigan's defense is, this is the best Russian defense in the country. Ohio State's going to have a lot of fits in this game. Can Beanie and Pittman get going? And
yes.
Beanie and Pittman both got going, and, they both have huge touchdowns. Pittman, I'm pretty sure, easily goes over 100 yards that game. And like they are fine. And that has been a pattern for the last decade. They ran all over that defense in 07 all the way up. And, to the last time they played them, JK, he had no problems with their defenses. And
no.
The same thing. Then those Don Brown defenses, they were always pretty stout against the run. And, they had some fits in 16, but again.
But that was, 16 and 17. I don't think we really went off on them in 17.
But we got running yards where we needed to get running yards. Curtis Samuel, the second half they were starting to run against them.
I don't even know in 18 we probably didn't really go off on them either, but we passed all over them.
Oh, so obviously 15 they
ran all over
them, and 14 they ran all over them. In the second half they really started getting going, and so
13 Hyde ran all over them.
I'm just not scared of their defense until I have to be scared of their defense.
Right.
So we'll see this year. Maybe it's different, and maybe I'm completely wrong. And I'll admit that. It'll be like, yeah, this is good Michigan defense. And I've praised their defense at some points this year, that I thought they are a much better defense now than they were under Don Brown. But obviously we'll get into a lot of that stuff.
And you really don't know what Rutgers, because Crowley did good against Rutgers. So you don't really know how good their run defense was against Ohio State, because Henderson got a little banged up and he left early in that game.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not too concerned. And I'm definitely interested to see how they line up against Walker, because if they keep him under control, Michigan State has no prayer to win this game. And personal opinion. Obviously we know, we all remember back to 15. What's the weather like? What's all the other intangibles like? So a lot of that stuff is to be determined,
But they got good enough receivers that if you're only keying in on Walker, you gotta, they can extend a drive with one of those receivers. So you gotta be smart how you play it. But this is also a team that they're not going to be like Purdue, that, they get down 2 scores and it's like, oh crap, the only chance we're going to have is throwing the ball. So now you can just sell out and hey, we'll let you guys just dink and dunk all day. These guys still, you go up a touchdown or 2, they still can run at you. So you got to be ready for everything, which for me, it doesn't scare me that much, but you still got to keep in the back of your mind that, they can make a lot of different things work against it.
Yeah. The question to I come with them is, yes, once you get to 2 scores, the running game's still available, but what happens when Ohio State gets the 3 scores? That,
Well, yeah.
there's going to be a part in this game that, even the play action ain't going to work anymore. And I think that's Ohio State's going forward. And I've always said this, and obviously you're going to be playing quality teams coming down here in the stretch. So this is not always a guarantee, but really Ohio State's best defense is always going to be how explosive their offense can come out. And if their offense can get separation on the scoreboard, their defense is fine. And even if they give up garbage things, I mean, we saw though, to be good and fair about the defense, we did see when they got into maybe some tighter games against Penn State and Nebraska, they rose to the occasion for the most part, and they kept those games separated enough that those teams couldn't come back on them when the offense maybe wasn't being as consistent as they could be. When the offense is high flying and doing what this offense does, that at least gives a lot of breathing room for this defense. So I think Michigan State, they're a quality team. Mel Tucker is a tough man. His team is very much to him,
a byproduct
of that toughness. A lot like when D'Antonio was there, that it's a tough mindset, and they get tough guys to play in that mindset. And
so, it doesn't, I'm not going to look at rankings, stars, any of that. This is going to be 2 of the better lines you're going to go up against this year, because they're going to be mean and they're going to want it just as bad as you do. And I'm sure their linebackers, will, can run.
I agree with that.
Can come at you.
Yeah. So, there's going to be very easily could be a 4-quarter game. Also, very easily that, especially if the weather is pretty cooperative and stuff, that if Ohio State gets it out in front of them, Ohio State's got better athletes. If they get out in front of them, the game could be very lopsided very quickly. And that's, Ohio State's capable to do that against most teams in the country, that, if they get out in front, they can easily blow them out. So, I'm not going to be surprised either way if Ohio State wins by 4 touchdowns, or if Ohio State's up by 10 in the 4th quarter and, playing keep away
as long as it's not like a field goal game in the 4th quarter. That's all I care.
You get a little nervous then, but
it's still a top 10 win. So you get every ounce of credit for that.
I'm not too concerned. I'm not concerned about that. I know. If it's not as grandiose as some Buckeye fans want, we'll see some worrying on Twitter and stuff like that. Ohio State beats them by 1 point and they're fine.
Right. Yeah. They shouldn't go anywhere.
The committee is going to consider it a good win. And, and all Michigan State then has to do is just they keep that as a good win, is just beat Penn State next week. And, they should be very capable of doing that. And so I'm not too concerned about that. Especially considering you're going to have another chance at another big win next week. So
Penn State will play them close.
Yeah. So, I think defensively, I think they will match up well. And just the best thing is just let's get out in front of them. Let's do what we did last week. Run some different stuff and make them try to figure, is this Trey Henderson getting the ball? Is Garrett Wilson getting the ball? Is Chris Olave getting the ball? And when teams defenses are off balance against them, they're just very hard to defend.
Yeah. And it's kind of actually like, I think Ohio State just does better when they also incorporate their wide receivers a little bit more into the run game. Like what we see, like it doesn't have to be crazy, but since Ryan Day's been around, those times that you can get someone like on an end around and spring them, it's done wonders for the team. So I would like to see some more of that. Not like a ton. I don't want them leaning on end arounds. Yeah. I don't want this to be like what Wisconsin did in 2010 to Ohio State, but I would be very happy to see Garrett Wilson get another end around in this game. Maybe even Olave get like a pop pass or something, see if he can take that, where or how far he can go with that. The receivers they're just better athletes. We have better athletes. I know they have this time they have 2 pretty good ends. So You got to watch for those guys. I think they're both close to like 6 sacks. I think that's 5.5 apiece.
The one thing, and we'll know more about this when you talk about the end of rounds. We're going to know more about this after this week's game. But the one thing I'm really looking forward to that I think that what Ryan Day started showing last week is that what plays does he have in his head that he can now start incorporating off some of that stuff he ran last week? Because, some of that stuff's coming. And maybe they'll run an end around early, but the second time they go to run an end around, is it going somewhere else? Is it going to be kind of like maybe a RPO somewhere? Maybe JSN releases to the middle of the field, and, a safety tries to bite up on that.
I don't know if any of those receivers could throw. You could always do something like that, like
you never know
trick plays.
Yeah,
I don't know. So I mean, I think your tackles are once again up for the challenge of stopping the pass rush from these defensive ends, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know. Like, again, with the run game, was that fool's gold last week? Have you figured out how to run with an end coming down? Have you figured your run game out again? I think they have. I think Mayan being healthy. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing coming down the stretch is having that healthy second running back. I think Henderson's great. I think he absolutely has every tool imaginable that he can take over a game on his own. But for what, like, the skill set Mayan can add to the team, it is just it's crucial. Like, it's essential. And then, Master Teague, hopefully you get him healthy again. And then he adds another element of the run game that you can bring him in, when you only need 1-2 yards, and they can know that the ball is going to him, and he still will get that 1-2 yards.
Yeah. I think I'm really looking forward to watching the tackles this week because, a lot of that stuff we've talked about coming down this stretch is that, how well do the tackles do in run blocking? How well do they, especially on the backside, how well do they continue to do in pass blocking? Because now we are getting, a lot of what we're going to see this week could be a very big precursor to the next week. And, next week they're going to really play a team that has two legitimate defensive ends that, that they, unless there's some injuries.
You had a really good end last week. You got some good ends this week. So if you hold up again, I feel pretty good with what your tackles can do against Hutchinson.
So Hutchinson and Ajabo, they're going to be, you're going to get it from both sides next week. So it's, so this is a good dress rehearsal for the tackles because, if they kind of go back to their old ways where they're letting the backside guy get through, Henderson and Mayan might have some issues next week, getting loose some when you have one of those two crashing down when they're the backside because they'll make plays.
Yeah, Mayan doesn't run a ton like that though. That they don't run him like the same type of plays that is as much of a concern. But but look what Oregon did. They had trouble moving Oregon, and Mayan had trouble in that game. So anything, certainly can happen. I don't ever trust how good Michigan's front really is anymore. We'll see it when we play them, but I think you're going to get a really tough defensive line in this game.
So, I like how everything is kind of setting up going forward because, this is a good defense and front seven wise that will be a challenge to us to get us ready. And, dress rehearsals are good. And, I always, I liked in 2019, I'd have, you have a tough stretch coming down the thing where you have to add Wisconsin then as the third team. It's very possibly easily going to be them again this year, but I don't mind playing a good team in front of Michigan because I know that they're not going to be overlooking Michigan State. They have before. And,
but they had no reason to in 15. But Michigan State was a one-loss team. Yeah. They had no reason to. 15, they overlooked everybody. And that's a fact. And it took them finally getting bit in the ass before they started taking teams seriously.
I agree with that.
So I don't know if they beat them. I don't know in any universe that you can justify in some way Michigan could have beat them in 15 because of how lopsided that score was. But if Ohio State would have escaped again against, Michigan State,
probably would have been a lot tougher.
Who knows? Who knows what it would have been? But that was the wake up call that they needed. It just happened too late.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think that the big thing. I just kind of lost my train of thought.
Sorry,
no, it's okay.
Impassioned.
But I was saying, I think that kind of what we saw in 19. He got in front of Penn State, and now well, once it got to the second half, he wasn't attempting to blow Penn State out. He got in front of Penn State, got up by a few scores. Penn State, and that kind of how State feeling. He gets in front of Michigan State in this game. I think you're going to see a lot of things, and I don't want Buckeye fans to get upset because I think he gets into a comfortable lead against Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State can come back from being down too far. He gets up by 3 scores. I think he's going to start thinking about, okay, what do I have in my playbook right now that I had on this game plan that I can just now shift it next week? And, because next week's the big one. And I think that's kind of Ryan Day's kind of philosophy. And so I could see that where if he can get up by a couple scores to the point that, all right, we're in a spot now where Walker ain't going to kill us because they can't just keep feeding him the ball if they want to win. And, Mel Tucker's going to want to win.
Right.
So I kind of think that could be definitely on the table to see that. So I go back to the thing. The best defense you can have is just, come out on fire in this game and look good.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Because they very well could. Now, I will say though, Ryan Day, if you got a comfortable win, don't do anything stupid on the last drive of the game and, have Stroud dropping back to throw the ball when he doesn't need to. Because
now, if he gets
that knee injury,
yeah, I do remember that
against 2019.
Now, yeah, if he gets into a real comfortable spot in the early, let's just put it this way: if he's in a really, really comfortable spot, mid third quarter, I have no problem giving up garbage touchdowns against the 13. If you got to have the clown show out there to be the clown show, or whatever, because if you're healthy up to that point, stay healthy.
You risk nothing because they're coming in possibly just as hot as you're coming in, and you're going to their home field. You risk nothing.
Yeah. Now, if it's a tight game, it's a tight game, and
you got to play it out.
You just got to hope everybody stays healthy. But yeah, if we get to a spot, in that game where it's super comfortable, then all right, then it's time for hate week at that point and start just run the ball and get all your starters out of there.
Yep, I agree.
All right. So anything I think just the big things is watch Walker. Don't let him go off on you, and just make sure that you got to kind of the goal has to be don't let him beat you, because ultimately if he starts getting loose on you, the play actions are they might be able to do some play actions early in the game when you're kind of over watching Walker, but still all that stuff starts equaling itself out if you don't let him bite you in the butt. If you let him start going off on you, then the play actions just get much more deadlier. And so that's the goal, is just don't let that guy kill you. And then you work backwards from there. And, if you can get up by a few touchdowns, then that of him not killing you, that eases to the point that, okay, now we can start concentrating a little bit more on the receivers and making sure they don't get back into the game at a point to where Walker can now become a person again in this game.
Right. And then I would also say on top of that, other side of the ball, you're going to get yards on these guys. They're not a good pass defense. They give up yards. You got to figure out, you did a great job against Purdue. You got to figure out, though, a way to either make those yards, get it so those can get to the end zone, or you got to have a great play call going on in the end zone. Don't settle for field goals. You got to get touchdowns. You're going to get yards. Let's make them huge plays that, we're getting 60-yard scores instead of 2-yard scores. But if they do make you, if they do get you to the red zone, at least they're going to try to make you work for it. Have a plan, get in the end zone when you're, within the 20.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to score predictions or anything else you want to throw out there about the game?
No, not right now.
All right. All right, nationally, I'm trying to think. Look at some games.
It is the chicken crap Saturday.
Yeah, even though Alabama's chicken crap was last week, but
Alabama has a good game.
Wake Forest Clemson. So Clemson's a 4.5 point favorite. It's in Death Valley, so
they haven't lost there yet. They have not lost at home.
I mean, do you think did they? I mean, I don't know if they're going to cover or not. 4.5, but they're talented enough. They should be able to beat Wake Forest. I'm sorry,
I think Wake Forest is going to beat them though, because their offense. I don't think their offense still has shown against any sort of team with a pulse that they can score on them. And I don't think Wake Forest has a good defense, but I don't think Clemson can score on anybody that has actual guys on their team. I mean, look at who have they blown out this year? It was UConn, and was it Mercer? Who was the other game that at the very beginning of the season? South Carolina State.
Yeah.
So they haven't scored more than 30 outside of UConn and South Carolina State. In both of those games, they didn't score out of the 40s. So yeah, they should be better, but they're just not this year.
Yeah.
And Wake Forest has a really good offense. So I think Wake Forest is going to beat them.
Now, I know North Carolina was overrated this year to what they were expected for, but I mean, and that was a shootout, but that was I don't know if Clemson's good enough to get into that type of shootout. Now, Clemson's defense is better than what North Carolina's is, but I think if Wake Forest gets out in front of them, I don't know.
On the flip side, Wake Forest has been held under 30 this year.
So I don't know if they could. I'm going to go with Wake Forest. They're going to get the win.
I think they win outright. That's going to be Clemson's first loss in Death Valley in a long time.
Wow, God, that's going to be a
bad way to end the year, right?
Yeah.
Maybe next week's at home too. I don't know if next week's at home for them. Nope, they're on the road in South Carolina next week. I don't know. I think that's what's going to happen.
Iowa State, Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma's obviously coming off the loss. They're a 3.5 point favorite. Campbell had some very interesting comments this week that he got really ran through the ringer over, and about the.
Well, I mean that he expects his guys just to play well and play for each other. That the expectation isn't championships.
Yeah.
I don't like things like that being said. I mean, your expectation should always be winning championships.
Yeah, exactly. I think Oklahoma, I think they bounce back. I think they cover. I think
I want to say it too, but again, he's had their number, especially in the regular seasons the last couple of years. I'm going to say Iowa State's going to win this game. I think
if Oklahoma would have beat Baylor, I think Iowa State would have beat them. Oklahoma is always good for that one loss, and then they play good after that. And I just think that that's their wake up call. And part of me thinks they're going to win out. And
they got 2 last year, and they were to the usual suspects, Kansas State and Iowa State.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting, but I think Oklahoma's going to beat them, and they'll cover.
Definitely could see it, but
Alabama, Arkansas. So that's actually a ranked versus ranked, but
20-point favorite, 20 and a half.
20 and a half. So I mean,
who did Arkansas? Was it Georgia that Arkansas was 20-point dogs to earlier in the year? Yeah. And then we were like, oh, I don't believe in Georgia's offense. That Georgia just annihilated them.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Bama covers the spread on this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Interesting comments from Juice this week about Ohio State, but I mean, I guess he wasn't reading some of the stuff.
I don't want to spend another minute talking about that guy.
I guess he wasn't reading some of the stuff I was reading, because I thought most Ohio State fans were pretty cool about it. They were okay about him. And a bunch of Ohio State fans have been pretty upset after the numbers he's put up this year that he left.
I'm not
revisionist history.
I'm not. Fans. I don't think anything I've ever put out there suggests that, I'm upset that he left. But at the same time, though, I like a lot of people, the frustration lies in that Ohio State fans, it's kind of like a backhanded compliment. Yeah, you're tearing it up, Alabama. Good thing, because you were going to be our 4th guy. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be the 4th guy, but it's who was he taking touches from? Because he's not a slot receiver. So were you putting Garrett Wilson on the bench for him? Were you putting Chris Olave on the bench for him?
I mean, Garrett Wilson obviously would have stayed in the slide if Juice was.
That's what
You're taking snaps.
Who knows? I mean, Brian Hartline might think that Jackson Smith and Jigbo's your best thing for the slot. That doesn't necessarily mean someone's a fourth receiver. It's just he's the first one coming off the bench. And I get that, numbers are what the numbers are. But.
I think if Juice would have stayed on the team, we would have saw a lot more of the fourth receiver this year than what we've already saw. I think they would have got him much more into the rotation.
I agree. It's not like, his production and time on the field would have been nothing like, what you've seen. And I know Fleming's been hurt, but it would have been nothing like, Fleming, Ibuka, Harrison, any of those guys. Like, I think that there would have been a lot more rotation with Wilson sliding down to the slot and then Williams coming out. They would have got him on the field a lot.
Yeah.
And it would have cut in a ton to, the production. It would have went a fourth way then. But I mean, the guy bet on himself. I just think that he realizes his bet paid off and now he's kind of like running his mouth a little bit. And that's not cool. Like, everyone's been cool. Most people, no one's dogging on you for what you're doing at Alabama.
Yeah.
And if they did, they might have been upset at first, but no one's gave you a hard time for doing good.
He's going to get well drafted because of what he's done.
People got to stop saying that he's the fourth best receiver.
The way I look at it, especially the reputation that Alabama's had over the last several years with their receivers, is that dude's getting paid. So like he got his money out of it. He
bet on himself. He did great. And if like in some weird universe, if Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle were still there, he wouldn't have went to Alabama. He would have went to Clemson or something, He bet on himself that he could be a number one somewhere, and he's done great. So good for him.
SMU against Cincinnati. Cincinnati is 11.5-point favorite. I think Cincinnati's going to win this game, but I don't think they're going to cover. It's just they've had so many close games coming down, different points coming down the stretch.
They got a better defense.
They do.
What's the spread on this?
11.5. Bearcats are home. 11.5-point favorite.
I'll agree with you. They'll win, but they're not going to cover.
And then the last national game I kind of want to hit is just 7:30 on ABC. Oregon at Utah. Number 3, number 23. Utah's a 3-point favorite though, so they're getting the home field advantage on this one. What do you think?
I think Utah. This game, actually, I was looking at it the other day. This is as close as a game could be. I mean, I'm just reading you off some numbers. Points per game, Oregon, 35.3. Utah, 35.7. Points allowed per game, Oregon, 22.6. Utah, 23.8. Total yards, 441 to 438. Yards allowed for defense, 367 to 346. So I think this is I think it matches up closely. I think Oregon, though, there is just something about them that I think they've been fraudulent all year. And I think, of course, they played a good team on the road already and they won. But let's face it, that good team was much different than what they are now. Utah's just coming into their own now. I think Utah's going to beat them. And I think, it's going to be 3 points or more or 4 points or more.
Yeah. All right. Big Ten time. Purdue Northwestern. So Purdue's coming off the loss. They're at Northwestern, 11-point favorite. I think they cover.
I think, Purdue Northwestern sucks this year.
The mighty Rutgers against Penn State. For whatever reason, I'm not being shown the
Penn State's 17.
Okay. What do you think?
Penn State does not cover. That can't be right. Penn State will win. They're not going to beat them by more than 17.
No, I think it'll probably be like a 7 to 10 point game. But Penn State will win. Illinois, Iowa. Iowa's a 12.5-point favorite.
Illinois has been a lot of teams that play similar to them this year. I think he's going to keep it within 12.5 points.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. I think Iowa wins, but I don't think that they're going to cover. I mean, that's kind of it's one of those games where it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a physical game. Yeah.
I mean, who they got?
Bielema's from Iowa.
They did what? They beat Nebraska, which, a lot of people have already. They got Penn State.
Yeah.
They got Minnesota, right? So
Yeah.
those teams that, that try to like muck it up and play ball control and try to be, tough with them. Bielema knows how to play and win those games. Yeah. I'm going to say Iowa wins, but I don't see it being a 2-score game.
Yeah. Skip Michigan for a second. Nebraska at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a 9-point favorite. I think they're
coming alive.
They're hitting their stride right now at the right moment. They're looking much more like themselves than they've been in a long time this year.
And how much energy does Nebraska have left?
They play so many. Is this the game where they get blown out? Like it's that they get.
I think Minnesota is going to be that team that, like Ohio State, we're hanging their hats on. We beat them by more than anyone else this year. I do think Wisconsin's going to beat them by 10 or more.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way. I think Wisconsin will cover that. They're hitting their stride, and I mean, it would be nice if the Nebraska, if they could pull out a win here, But I think to a point that I don't know how many more close losses can you have, and Minnesota at Indiana. Minnesota is a 7.5-point favorite.
Indiana sucks.
Yeah, so I think Minnesota's going to cover. It's just I don't know how.
I don't know if I believe in them covering though. Indiana does suck though. I mean, Rutgers kicked their ass. Yeah, Minnesota will cover.
I don't think Indiana's defense is as solid as they've been in years past.
No, they're not. They're not that good.
Michigan is at Maryland. They are a 15-point favorite.
Yes.
Are they going to cover?
Yes.
Whereas Maryland, is this like I always think about that year, 2018. We win,
but they're hurt. They don't got anything that can do that.
I know. It's just, Michigan's going to cover. I just think that it's just,
who knows?
This is a look ahead game for them where Ohio State doesn't have that.
Maybe little Tua, is he still playing? Is he hurt now? I mean, their quarterbacks are always hurt this time. And I don't know. Okay. Faces tough pass rush from number 8 Michigan. They do have a good pass rush.
Ohio State put him on his butt a lot in that game, and
he didn't do well. And Iowa did the same, and he didn't do well. And Michigan's going to do the same too. I think Michigan will blow the doors off them.
No. All right, our game. We're a 19-point favorite. We are home. What are you looking at on our offense here? Who's your guy?
Well, you and I have talked about it earlier in the week that I think it's going to start coming out to be that Garrett Wilson is going to be the best player on the field when he's on the field. And with that being said, it is senior day for CO2 Chris Olave. And he is 1 touchdown away from tying David Boston, 2 from breaking it. And he will do that this week. He will have 2 touchdowns, no more, no less. And I think he'll have about 100. We'll give him 150 in the air. And yeah, Chris Olave is going to be the dude. He's going to go out with a bang. And we're all going to cry because 2 of the best receivers we've ever seen, this is going to be their last game playing it in Columbus.
I don't think we've done this yet this year. But
we haven't focused on that enough.
I don't think we've done this year yet, but I'm going to agree with you on this one because I do believe he's going to be the guy, and I think they're going to want him to be the guy. And
he came back.
That I think they want him to get his 2 touchdowns. Even though him breaking the record against Michigan will be pretty sweet too, but I think getting the 2 touchdowns at home,
that's kind of like full circle. Started against them, ends against them,
which would be great.
That would be great.
Like that. That's always an opportunity too. He's going to get more next week though, so this will be his. He's going to break the record this week, and I agree with that. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to be a player of the game or anything, but I think Master T's going to get 1 or 2 also this week if he's healthy.
I hope he's healthy enough to play because we need him back.
Yeah. All right. Your thoughts on defense?
I think this is going to be a really good game, excuse me, for the cornerbacks, but I'm going to say Zach Harrison. I think he'll get a couple sacks, get some pressure. This is going to be a good, like we said, I don't know if this is going to be the best offensive line he's played up to date. Probably not statistically, but we know what Michigan State brings in the trenches. So He's going to have a dogfight. I think he's going to rise to the occasion. He's going to get a couple sacks. But what I've noticed from Zach is when he is able to diagnose a play, he's been tremendous in the run game as an end. And I think he's going to make some really nice plays on Walker this week.
Yeah, I can see that.
And Walker's an explosive back, but I think he's going to do fine against him.
I definitely can see that. All right, my guy. I'm going with Steel Chambers because dude has reacted so well this year. A lot better than I ever could imagine him to do. And I think this is going to be an opportunity game where he could really shine coming down and making tackles on Walker. And I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to lead the team in tackles this week. I think he's going to be just the man. And I'm going to Steel Chambers. What's your score?
I've been going back and forth with this if I believe Ohio State can cover or not. I believe absolutely Ohio State can cover. They have the talent advantage by so much in this game that they're able to do so. I just don't think that they will, though. I think this game is going to be, I'm saying 41-24. So a 17-point victory.
I was actually about the same as you, just I'm a little less on Ohio State's points. I'm going 38-24. I think this is going to be
it could be a dogfight.
I think there'll be parts of the game where it is a dogfight. I just think that part of me thinks Ohio State will get up in front by a couple touchdowns early, and then I think maybe then they're going to start getting really conservative. I just kind of have that feeling that they might get really conservative in this game to a point that big game is looming now, and they're playing them this year.
Yeah.
So I really think we've seen games like this in the past with various coaches that, you get up in the week before and then you just be like, all right, it's Michigan week. And I just don't think it's going to be no different. I see a lot of it getting his 2 touchdowns. Those could be 2 touchdowns really early. And then I just think it's going to be a lot of running game and they're just going to grind it out.
Yeah. Which, I mean, hell, a win's a win and it'll be nice.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Let's get on out.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
I-O.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
I-O.